I'm Adam, 29 years old, and I've always been a dependable one in my family. Since turning 18, I never relied on anyone financially. I worked my way through college, carved out a solid career in IT consulting, and saved enough to live comfortably. My younger brother, Ryan, 26, is my polar opposite. He still crashes at our parents' place, has jumped between countless jobs, yet somehow always sports the newest gadgets, flashy sneakers, or the latest smartphone. When asked how he funds his lifestyle, he just smirks and says, "I know people." In reality, he's bankrolled by our parents' endless cash flow. And when that dries up, he comes to me. Ryan and I have never been tight, mainly because every chat inevitably ends with him hitting me up for money. 2 weeks ago, he called me midday, oblivious that I was in a client meeting. "Bro, I need 20K, he said, as casually as asking for a pen. I laughed. Think it was a prank, but he was dead serious. He claimed it was for some surefire business deal with a buddy. The last surefire idea he'd involved peddling designer sunglasses from his car trunk. I shut him down instantly, unwilling to entertain another one of his flimsy schemes. Even if I had the patience, I wasn't about to fork over that kind of cash. He didn't take my no well. He went silent, eerie silent, then muttered, "I thought you were family," before hanging up. That's Ryan's guilt trip tactic. In the past, that line would trigger a call from Mom, pleading, "He's your brother, Adam. Just help him this once." Except this once had happened half a dozen times already. Sure enough, hours later, Mom called, skipping pleasantries. "Ryan says you won't help him. He's trying to improve his life, Adam." I told her I wasn't financing his latest pipe dream. She sighed heavily and said, "You've always been so selfish." The next day, I stopped by my parents' house after work to pick up some papers I'd left in the study while helping Dad set up a new printer. Ryan was there, lounging on the couch like he ran the place, blasting the TV while scrolling his phone. We barely exchanged words. I grabbed my folder and was about to leave when I remembered I'd left my work laptop charging in the guest room the night before. That laptop was my lifeline, custom-built, pricey, loaded with client files and years of work. As I unplugged it, Ryan appeared in the doorway, leaning with a smug grin. "Still not going to help me?" he asked. I didn't even glance up. Nope. What happened next wasn't an accident. It was too calculated. Ryan sauntered over, grabbed my laptop with one hand, and before I could react, walked to the backyard and tossed it into the pool. I stood frozen as the splash rang in my ears, my gut sinking. "Are you out of your mind?" I managed to say. He just shrugged, voice dripping with nonchalance. "Oops, my hand slipped." His casual tone was maddening. My parents rushed outside after hearing me shout. Before I could explain, Ryan threw up his hands and said, "It was an accident." What enraged me was Dad's response. He didn't ask if the laptop was salvageable or what it cost. He just looked at me and said, "Adam, relax. It's just a laptop. Just a laptop." That machine was worth more than Ryan's car. Beyond the price, it held my work, my clients' trust, my deadlines. Soaked and holding the ruined device, I stared at my so-called family and realized they didn't care. Ryan smirked, clearly amused. "Should have helped me when you had the chance." Dad didn't reprimand him. Mom just rolled her eyes, muttering about boys being boys. I wanted to lose it, but I went silent instead. I've learned that showing anger only eggs them on. I set the wrecked laptop on the patio table, said nothing, gave Ryan a tight smile, grabbed my keys, and left. That night, I couldn't sleep, replaying Ryan's smirk, Dad's dismissive tone, Mom's apathy. Something shifted in me. Usually I'd pull back, maybe go low contact for a bit. But this was different. This wasn't just about money or disrespect. It was a line crossed. Ryan thought it was over. It wasn't. By midnight, I'd made some calls and changed some passwords. Small moves, but just a start. At 6:15 a.m., Ryan woke up to a surprise he didn't expect. Not a loud one, no bang or yell. It was subtle, enough to spark his first hint of panic. He called me at 6:18 a.m., voice tense. "Yo, my Netflix isn't working. Did you change the password?" I nearly laughed but kept my tone even. Yeah, Ryan. Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Apple Music, Xbox Live. Since you don't pay for them, you don't use them anymore. He paused and spat. Real petty, huh? And hung up. I thought that was for the morning. But by 9 a.m., Mom was on the line. I just talked to Ryan. He says you're punishing him over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? That was her term for him deliberately destroying a $4,000 laptop. Before I could respond, she went on, You know he needs those accounts. He can't afford them himself. I pointed out he also couldn't afford to replace my laptop, but she brushed it off. You're older, Adam. Be the bigger person, not a grudge holder. I started seeing how deep their favoritism ran. To them, Ryan was the golden child who could do no wrong. If he messed up, it was my job to fix it or ignore it. If I slipped up, they'd already labeled me the heartless one. Mom ended the call with, We're family, Adam. You don't abandon family. I hung up without a word, scared I'd say something I couldn't take back. That afternoon, I had to swing by the house again to grab some tools I'd lent Dad. I almost didn't go, worried my stuff might vanish. The tension was thick when I walked in. Ryan and Mom were in the kitchen, giggling over something on his phone. When they saw me, Ryan put on a mock frown. Watch out, everyone, he announced loudly. Don't touch Adam's stuff, or he'll cut you off from your own accounts. Mom laughed like it was hilarious. I ignored them, asked Dad for my toolbox. He muttered about letting things go before handing it over. Ryan wasn't done, though. As I headed to my car, he followed me to the driveway. You could just give me the $20K, and we'd be square, he said, grinning smugly. My grip tightened on the toolbox. Square. I said quietly, Ryan, you trashed my laptop. He shrugged. You're loaded, Adam. You'll replace it in days. I'm trying to build something real here. You could help instead of making it all about you. His warped logic chilled me. That night, it escalated. Around 11 p.m., a text from an unknown number came through, a screenshot of a group chat with my parents, Ryan, and some relatives. Ryan wrote, Adam's throwing a fit because I accidentally broke his computer. He's locking me out of everything and won't help the family. Money changes people. The replies stung worse. That's just Adam. An aunt wrote, Not surprised. Another added, No one asked for my side. I realized I wasn't just up against Ryan, but a whole system that enabled him, one that had been in place forever. If I was going to act, I had to be strategic, composed, patient. Ryan was about to learn, I don't play games unless I play to win. Those calls I made the night before, they were already in motion. 2 days later, I saw how far Ryan would go. During a client meeting, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls from my bank, then an email, unusual activity detected. My heart sank. I stepped out and read the message. A fraud alert. Someone tried to transfer $9,500 from my checking account to one under Ryan M. My hands shook as I called the bank. They confirmed the request came through my login credentials. I'd always guarded my banking info, used complex passwords. Then it hit me. My laptop, the one Ryan drowned. Beyond the hardware, it held saved passwords. Even with water damage, someone motivated, say, Ryan's tech-savvy friend, could have pulled data. I had no hard proof yet, but this wasn't just him messing with streaming accounts or bad-mouthing me. This was theft. I told the bank to lock my accounts. While they sorted it, I texted Ryan, Call me now. No reply. An hour later, Mom called. Stop accusing your brother, she said without a greeting. I was floored. He told you already? Her tone sharpened. He said you froze your accounts to frame him. That's low, Adam. He'd never steal. I wanted to yell, Mom, his name's on the transfer attempt. I said, enunciating every word. She didn't budge. People do dumb things when they're desperate. If he'd help with his business, he wouldn't be in this spot. That was when something broke in me. For years, I'd swallowed being cast as a selfish one while Ryan skated free. But this, attempting to steal what I'd built my whole life, and my parents stood by him. The final straw came that evening. Checking my mail, I found a credit card notice confirming an additional authorized user, Ryan M. He hadn't just tried to take money. He was trying to latch onto my finances for good, without even asking. My pulse thundered. The betrayal settled in, cold and heavy. That night, in my dim apartment, I stopped seeing Ryan as my brother. He was a problem to solve. And he had no idea I had more than locked accounts and changed passwords up my sleeve. He'd given me every reason to use it all. The days after were some of the darkest I'd felt. Not over the money, but the truth that I was truly alone in my family. The repercussions of Ryan's slanderous tactics struck me harder than I'd anticipated. Gossip rippled through our extended family, and my phone buzzed with messages that set my temper aflame. My uncle texted, "If you're seriously claiming your brother stole from you, you're the one who needs help." My cousin chimed in, "Everyone knows you've always thought you're better than Ryan. This is a new low even for you." Despite the evidence I held, no one cared to listen. In their view, I was the antagonist, cold, scheming, and too prosperous for my own good. At the office, things weren't much brighter. The wrecked laptop threw my deadlines into chaos. Though I recovered some files from backups, certain projects demanded a complete restart. I found myself burning the midnight oil, surviving on takeout at my desk, barely sleeping. Each time my phone pinged, I steeled myself for another hit. Either a bank alert about unauthorized charges or a family member scolding me for being awful. I hoped a heart-to-heart with my parents might clear the air, but when I visited their home, I didn't even cross the threshold. Dad blocked the doorway, arms folded, and said flatly, "We don't like how you're treating your brother. Until you say sorry, stay away for a while." I searched his face for a sign he was joking, but all I saw was disappointment aimed at me, not Ryan. In the background, Ryan's laughter echoed from the living room, carefree, watching TV. Walking to my car, that day felt like stepping out of my own existence. The people I thought would always support me had picked their side, and it wasn't mine. That night, alone in my dim apartment, I stared at my phone as Ryan's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. Then came his voicemail, his voice mocking. "You could have just handed over the cash, man. Would have spared you all this hassle." Something in that moment snapped the final tether holding me back. The rage, the shame, the betrayal. I stopped resisting it. But instead of letting it consume me, I let it simmer. Anger flares bright and brief, but when you let it cool, it hardens into something far more potent. Patience. The next day, I stopped engaging. No replies to texts, no answering calls, no defending myself to family. I went radio silent. To them, it probably seemed like I'd surrendered, like they'd triumphed, and I let them believe that. I focused on work, tied up loose ends, and quietly secured my life. I shut down old accounts, moved money where Ryan couldn't reach, and called in favors from contacts outside the family. People Ryan didn't even know existed. The more I reflected, the clearer it became. Walking away wouldn't cut it. Ryan would keep leeching as long as there was something to take, and my parents would keep enabling him as long as they saw him as harmless. They needed to see his true colors, and he needed to face the consequences of every selfish move he'd made. And whether they realized it or not, I held more sway over Ryan's world than he ever suspected. All I needed was the perfect moment to act. That moment was closer than he imagined. It's strange how, when you stop wasting energy justifying yourself to people who refuse to see the truth, you suddenly have so much left to create something better. My first move was to upgrade everything. I replaced my trash laptop with a high-end workstation I've been eyeing for months but always hesitated to buy. Not anymore. I beefed up my security, invested in encrypted backups, and signed up for services that made my workflow ironclad. That same week, I landed a major contract with an overseas tech firm, bigger than anything I'd tackled before. The advance alone paid for the laptop twice over. The irony wasn't lost on me. Ryan's attempt to derail me had only pushed me to accelerate. Cash started rolling in faster than I'd expected. I optimized my processes, hired a freelance assistant, and carved out time for high-level strategy instead of constant damage control. With the extra space, I started saying yes to opportunities I'd have passed on before, speaking at industry events, consulting for startups, even joining a tech podcast. My reputation grew, and so did my rates. But success wasn't just about money. I began reconnecting with people outside the toxic family circle, old friends, professional contacts, even a few distant relatives who quietly reached out to say they didn't buy Ryan's narrative. I kept those chats light, never airing family grievances, just showing I was thriving. It wasn't about proving anything yet. It was about sowing seeds. Meanwhile, I kept my eyes on Ryan from afar. His so-called business was already crumbling. Big surprise. He'd been hitting up my parents for more money, and I learned he bragged to friends about putting me in my place by trashing my laptop and stirring family drama. What he didn't know was that some of those friends weren't as loyal as he thought. One, a guy I vaguely remember from years ago, sent me screenshots of Ryan's boasts, messages he'd come to regret, combined with bank records of his attempted transfers and other bits I quietly gathered. I was building something. Not necessarily a legal case, not yet, but planned to unravel his web of lies. The best part? He had no clue I was watching, listening, and stacking the deck. By spring, I wasn't just back on track. I was leaps ahead of where I'd started. My business was booming, my network was growing, and I was positioned to make moves no one saw coming. The best part was my silence. No arguments, no warnings, no hints to Ryan or my parents that I was planning anything. When I finally acted, I didn't want them to just feel the change. I wanted them to marvel at how swiftly it happened. The turning point came one evening when I ran into Mr. Carson, an old family friend and vice president at a mid-sized investment firm, at a tech networking dinner. Over coffee afterward, we caught up, and Ryan's name surfaced. Turns out, Ryan and his business partner had pitched Mr. Carson's firm for funding. The proposal was a joke, no solid plan, inflated profit projections, and zero expertise. But the kicker? Ryan had listed me as a silent investor. My jaw dropped. Mr. Carson showed me the proposal on his phone, and there it was. Backing from Adam M., IT consultant, complete with my LinkedIn profile attached. If investors took it seriously, my reputation could have been tied to Ryan's doom scheme. That was when I knew I had all the leverage I needed. I told Mr. Carson the truth, thanked him for the heads up, and asked for a copy of the proposal. He sent it, along with emails of Ryan boasting that my involvement would win investors' trust. With that, my arsenal was complete. Bank records of Ryan's attempted transfer, the unauthorized credit card, screenshots of him gloating about my laptop, and now proof he'd misused my name for his sham business. Any one of these could hurt him. Together, they could torch every bridge he had. But I wasn't just aiming to expose him. I wanted to shape the story. If I timed it right, Ryan's collapse wouldn't look like vengeance. It would look like the inevitable result of his own hubris. And if I played it smarter, my parents would see the truth without me ever saying, "I told you so." I started laying the groundwork, casually reaching out to mutual acquaintances, my parents' colleagues, and influential relatives, all framed as professional catch-ups. I dropped subtle mentions of hearing Ryan was working on a big project, hoping it was legit. I wasn't accusing. I was planting seeds of doubt. Meanwhile, I consulted a lawyer friend about someone using my name without consent in a financial pitch. His advice gave me plenty of ideas and even more confidence. By month's end, I was exactly where I wanted to be, secure in my career, armed with undeniable evidence of Ryan's schemes, and surrounded by people starting to question his golden boy facade. The game was on, and Ryan didn't even know it had started. It began with one email. I sent Ryan's fraudulent proposal, with my name plastered on it, to my lawyer friend. He drafted a sharp cease and desist letter, making it clear that using my identity for financial gain was unethical and potentially illegal. The letter went straight to Ryan's email, his partner's inbox, and, for good measure, CC'd to my parents. I didn't call. I didn't explain. I let the silence do the talking. Within hours, Ryan flooded my phone with texts. First fake outrage. "You're ruining everything." Then guilt. "I thought you wanted me to succeed." Finally, threats. "You'll regret this when I make it big." I ignored them all. My lawyer said silence would unnerve him more than any reply. 2 days later, I made my next move. I sent the proposal and proof of Ryan's misuse of my name to every investor he'd pitched, with a brief note. To clarify, I have no involvement in this venture and do not endorse it. professional, concise, untouchable. By week's end, Ryan's partner had bailed, investors had vanished, and whispers were spreading through the network my parents loved to boast in. The Golden Boy's armor was cracking, and people were noticing. But I wasn't finished. My favorite move came next. I compiled the bank records, the unauthorized credit card, and the screenshots of Ryan bragging about my laptop into a secure PDF titled, "For Your Records." I sent it to my parents with a short note. "I thought you should know the full story." No reply needed. It hit harder than I expected. Dad didn't respond. Mom sent 2 words. "We'll talk." I didn't. Then came the quietest, most crushing move. Those not-so-loyal friends of Ryan's? I tipped one off about a lucrative freelance contract I'd landed, the kind of work Ryan pretended to excel at. Word reached him that I'd secured a deal worth more than his venture could have ever made. And because I'd been quietly visible about my success, without gloating, he knew I wasn't just surviving. I was soaring despite him. The brilliance of it all was that I never raised my voice, never posted a bitter word, never called him out publicly. I just flipped on the light and let everyone see who he really was. The fallout was only beginning. The real collapse came faster than I'd imagined. A week after sending my parents the PDF, my aunt, the one who'd once scolded me in a family chat, called. Her tone was cautious now. She said she'd talked to Mom, and things at their house were strained. Apparently, Dad had pored over the PDF, cross-checking bank statements, the credit card form, and Ryan's own messages bragging about my laptop. There was no wiggle room. It was all Ryan, his words, his handwriting, his signature. That night, Ryan came home to find Mom and Dad waiting. Dad demanded answers. Ryan tried his usual excuses. It was a mistake. I didn't mean it. Adam's exaggerating. But for the first time, my parents didn't buy it. Dad told him to pack up and leave. No more bailouts. No more just this once. The story spread like wildfire. Relatives who'd once backed Ryan now knew the truth, and their silence was loud. Friends stopped answering his calls. His business contacts cut ties. Even his quick cash connections ghosted him. The Golden Boy image was in tatters, leaving just Ryan, broke, jobless, and exposed. I saw him one last time, 3 weeks later, outside a coffee shop. He was across the street in the same worn hoodie he always lounged in, shoulders hunched, staring at his phone. He looked diminished, not just in stature, but like the spark had drained out of him. Our eyes locked briefly. No smirk, no words. He just turned and walked away. I didn't feel victorious. Exactly. More quiet, steady satisfaction that justice had prevailed without me stooping to his level. I'd given him every chance to stop, to mature, to respect boundaries. He didn't. In the end, his own greed and arrogance brought him down. As for my parents, we keep things civil, exchanging polite holiday texts, but the lectures about helping family have stopped. I think they finally see that shielding Ryan wasn't helping him. It was just delaying the consequences he needed to face. And me? My business is stronger than ever. My life is calm, my boundaries ironclad. This whole ordeal taught me one thing. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't tearing someone down.